Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Rees, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guest, Claire Edwards. Hi Claire.
Hi Sue.
Brilliant speaking to you today, Claire. I'm very much looking forward to chatting to you. I've got a list of questions. So, Claire Edwards is a self-taught mixed media embroidery artist from Wem in North Shropshire. Her creativity was found later in life after having had successful careers both in the Royal Air Force as a telecommunications operator and in the voluntary sector working with young offenders. In 2014, she had a long period of sickness from her job and, to keep herself busy, taught herself how to crochet and draw. It was at this point, without a diagnosis, that she resigned from her job and applied to go to university despite having very little experience or knowledge of anything creative. It was during her second year and a project called The Stitched Surface that she found her love of stitch and decided that this would be her focus for the rest of her degree. At around the same time, she received her diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, an autoimmune disease where the body's immune system attacks the joints, and unfortunately, damage was already found in her hands. Graduating with a first-class BA Honours in Textile Surfaces from Staffordshire University, Claire has continued to study by undertaking a Master's by negotiated study so that she can further explore combining embroidery with unconventional materials such as resin. Much of her inspiration comes from the ocean and her concern with the use of single-use plastics and global warming. Right, and Claire's listed off some awards here. So 2019, in the Bradford Textiles competition, she's won 2 first prizes, one for embroidery and one for unconventional material. So we'll get onto all this unconventionality a bit later. 2017, Hand and Lock Student Fashion second prize. Again, 2017, Bradford Textiles competition, Cloth Workers Foundation Award, again in unconventional materials, and a sponsorship with Madeira in 2017 as well. So well done, Claire. All this achieved later in life. Yay.
Yay.
She goes by the fabulous name, and we'll come on to this, defiantembroidery.com. And of course, as usual, on Claire's episode of stitcherystories.com, then you will see some examples of her art that we've been talking about and all of her links and related episodes and anything else I can think to put on there. And as ever, if you want to share this with your friends, that'd be fabulous. And if you feel like giving me a review, that would be really brilliant. So you can do that if you use Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. Most places there's a review button, or just go to the Stitchery Stories Facebook page. You can do a review on there as well. Always very gratefully received. Thank you. Right then, Claire, as we start our Stitchery story today, of course, we're all still in lockdown. So would you like to share with us what you are working on and what's got you excited?
Yeah, I'm working at the moment on my final collection for my master's degree, really. My hand-in now is end of August.
Right.
I'm still very much on track for that. Whether I can do a physical hand-in, or whether I have to hand-in just digitally, I don't know yet. All depends what's going to happen. So I'm planning, I've half-stitched some of it, a collection of coral reef inspired projects for both the interiors and for fashion. So I'm halfway through doing a nice big neck piece at the moment, and I've already finished my wall hanging, which is all encased in resin.
Ah, right. So that's a wall hanging, is it? Right. Do you know, I was wondering what you were actually doing with that. So let's backtrack a step here. So everybody, one of the things I'm utterly fascinated about what Claire's been doing, and if you go and find her on Instagram for a start off, because she's been sharing loads of brilliant pictures there, Claire has been entombing her beautiful sort of encrusted beadwork and stuff like that in resin. So Claire, do you want to just explain a bit more about how all that has happened and Yeah, a wall hanging made out of resin. Right, go on, go.
It is. It sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? The resin actually came from an idea of Karen Nichol came to our university to do a talk and showed us all of her amazing work. And on one of her embroideries of a fish was some pieces of resin on there, and it looked absolutely beautiful. I thought, oh, that's going to give me, give me a nice idea of how can I incorporate resin with my embroidery. So rather than actually just using small pieces of resin, I thought, oh, what can I do? Can I encase the embroidery fully in resin? What will happen to the beads, or what will happen to the sequins? Will they rot, or will they be okay? So that was my right at the start of my master's. Was I did a research project on encasement, so looking at Victorian jewellery where they encase hair and hair work and that sort of thing. So experimenting with putting bits of embroidery into resin. And it's not just, it sounds fairly simple, but it was also about choosing which type of resin is going to be most suitable, because some of the resins, like the polyester resin, have like an exothermic chemical reaction which heats whilst it's setting. And some of the, I would say, I'm not going to call them disasters because they're all learning.
Yeah, well, that's the point of a research phase, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. They melted all the sequins. So the embroidery always, it takes so long anyway, and then to put it into the resin, it's like, how's this going to turn out? And I've got some beautiful embroideries that I've done, which have, I suppose, melted, the colour's been lost, but it's actually, I've used that anyway as part of my final pieces, because it's more about processes, but also the final pieces are about the environmental things that are happening with the coral reef. So they're all dying off. So it's actually worked well in my favour, to be fair.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that because you've done a piece on bleached, like bleached coral reef, haven't you?
I have, yes.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about that, how actually while you were saying that, I was thinking, right, do you know what? This fits in really well, though, in a weird kind of way, because you're encapsulating damage and the process of damage to show the process of damage and damage that we're doing to our world because of plastic and things. So I like that pattern and the circular nature of what you've uncovered there, I suppose.
There's a very subtle nod to environmental issues, so like that go throughout the whole of my work, really. They're not overly obvious at the time, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, it definitely is there, without a doubt. What I really liked is, especially when you've done these like beads, kind of piles of beads going upwards, so it makes it look like coral tentacly things and all that, whatever the proper name for them is. Has the resin helped them to stand up better, or did it at first kind of make them droop? Does this make sense? It
does. There's two different ways that I've tackled this, really, is to really make the stitches really tight so that they stand up. Yeah. But also the resin is been cast in layers. So some of these resin pieces can take weeks and weeks and weeks to be able to do, because I'm putting really small layers so that it doesn't flatten the stitches.
That's what I was wondering, because I have to sit and look at these things and think, what's she doing? Because I'm fascinated by how things work and factories. So for me, the fascination of the actual physical process of making things was just really there. And I've just been looking at these things thinking, God, I've got to speak to her about this. I just really want to know, just for the sake of wanting to know. So I'm nosy. Fabulous.
I was just going to say, it's because it's not obvious to start, because when you look at the pictures, you only see the one layer of resin. And because of the resin that of the months and months of trying out lots and lots of different types of resins and cutting down on the different not being able to see the layers, it just looks like it's just been cast in one piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people will be looking at that and going, oh, well, that's just one. Oh, that's only 5 minutes. You know how people do at shows and things, don't they?
Yeah.
What should be messing about all those months for with that? Anyone can do that.
It is. It's dead easy.
So I've got to ask this. So in terms of a wall hanging, because as I say, I was wondering what you were doing with all of these things. Because what I liked was when you've then like kind of filed off the corners and things as well, you've got a different, that takes the shine off it, doesn't it, when you start to process them like that as well. So is it not heavy then as a wall hanging?
It's not. It's really light.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, it's really light. It's the beveled edges that I've done, because when you're casting the resin, you get the a little upturn in the edges where the mould comes. So when you take it out of the mould, those are quite sharp. So I filed all those down, but because I can't get access to the workshops in uni at the moment, I can't polish all the edges. So they've been sanded. And then if I can get in at the end, I'll polish them. But it actually gives quite a nice effect, really.
Yeah, I actually like that.
Yeah, I might just leave it like that at the moment, but I haven't finished with these because at the moment they're still in a set of 9 blocks.
Yeah,
and I've got to make the decision of how those are going to be mounted on the wall now. Whether I'm going to individual mount the 9 pieces, or I might do a large casting of just lots of different colours of blue going through it, and then set the 9 tiles into that one. I'm still thinking about it. I might just have to open Photoshop and have a play and see what I can come up with, and see what I like the best, really.
Yeah, because it's all of a bit of a destructive process as well, isn't it? It's like, well, I've done these things now, and so what? You don't want to wreck what you've just done, because otherwise you've got nothing left, have you? So scary.
There's weeks and weeks and weeks worth of work in that just to be could be just to be thrown away.
Yeah, you're gonna have to play cautiously now, I think.
Definitely.
Right. Well, I could rabbit on about this forever, but what I was very interested in is the fact that, along with several other guests who have a similar kind of story, that you didn't come to art and creativity till later in life, and actually, sadly, after probably being pushed because of illness as well. So, your life changed beyond what you probably thought it would do. And then you found all this creativity. And again, I find that fascinating, that you didn't kind of know you was creative until you started drawing and things. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. It's actually, a bit of a bittersweet story, because I was doing a career that I absolutely loved. And I'd worked for probably about 14 years working within the voluntary sector, working directly with families and young people. And I was managing a project across in North Wales, and it was all I ever wanted. And over a period of probably about a year, I started to really struggle with the commute, with the job, and to the point that sometimes I couldn't even walk up the stairs when I got to the office. And eventually went off sick. The GPs were just going, "Oh, you're depressed, go away, have some tablets, fine."
Yeah.
And as they do, not knowing what's wrong with you. And I just wasn't getting better. I'd had 2 or 3 failed return to works, and I was just not coping. So I stayed at home, tried to get better, but I was absolutely bored senseless of watching box sets on the telly. I thought, what can I do to keep me occupied, and to keep me from going absolutely bonkers and driving everybody else in the house mad. So I taught myself to crochet. Became a little bit addicted by it, to be fair. I was making blankets. There was stuff everywhere, and I've always got a hook in my hand, and thought, you know what, I'm going to have to do something with this. So I was thinking about what else I could do if I couldn't go back to my job. So I looked at university. So I applied for art and design at Glyndŵr in Wrexham, and 3D contemporary jewellery in Staffordshire. Went for the interview at Staff's Uni, and decided that I didn't want to do 3D contemporary jewellery. I'd seen a picture on the wall of this beautifully embroidered jacket, and I thought, that's what I want to do. And a week later I started, and handed in my notice. It was that quick.
Yeah.
My application hit the desk the day before the closing date, so it was a real quick turnaround. And I've never looked back since, really. It wasn't till the second year of my degree that I finally got the diagnosis, and to be fair, it just pretty much rocked my world by then, because I thought that the career that I'd chosen for myself to get me through, because I actually found all the creativity really therapeutic. It helped me so much to get through every single day. I thought, this is now going to be taken away from me. And that was really difficult. So a period of a couple of months trying to get my head around that was hard. But what I've since realised is actually this the stitch and the use of my hands has been really useful. I might not be able to open a can, or I can't open a bottle because I just haven't got the strength in my hands for that, but I can sew. And it's not stopped me, really. It's really helpful.
Right. So that was what I was going to kind of move on to was, so you got the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. As you say, that must have really knocked you for six, because here you are, having changed from something you loved to something else that you've now discovered that you loved. Yeah, there was that danger there of, oh no, what am I going to do now? My hands are getting damaged. But, as we quite often try and look for, there's often a silver lining around the corner that we didn't expect. So I think that's very inspiring, I think, or encouraging for other people as well to be, if you was in that same kind of situation, that actually it's turned out better than what you thought, and it's keeping your hands moving, because you're using the kind of the range of movement that your hands are happy with, obviously, not trying to rive off lids and cans and more strength stuff. That's a really nice story, and I think a very inspiring one as well. So thank you, Claire, for sharing that, because we don't often like to ask about things like that, do we? Because we're English. And
That's okay. It's all part of my story, really. I don't think I'd be where I am now if I didn't push past things. And, I've always been pretty much outgoing in that respect. And if somebody tells me I can't do something, I'll try and prove them wrong. It just, I just want to keep going.
So is that where the name Defiant Embroidery came from? Because that was my next question. Clearly you have been defiant over this. So is that where it's come from, Claire?
It is, yeah. A bit of a rule breaker. I mean, whoever thought I would be putting resin, putting embroidery into resin? But no, I think it's always been that way. School told me, oh, you can't join the Air Force, you're too short. I'm only 5 foot tall, so I thought,
right,
really? And I did. So I proved them wrong with that, and it was one of another thing that I really enjoy doing. I've always done things, I suppose, a bit defiant and breaking the rules. So yeah, I'm not going to stop as I'm getting older.
No, well, do you know what? I think as we get older, we just give ourselves permission to not really care about that kind of stuff anymore as well, don't we? I think we definitely get to a certain age, and I think I'm well past that now, but it's like, I don't care. I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. And I think that's probably where we get this all through time. We get to this thing of the wise woman, the wisdom of women. And as we're now healthier and longer lived than we ever have been, I think we've got more of that to look forward to, haven't we? We're coming to our own.
Yeah.
That's why I just love Defiant Embroidery.
I think I've become a bit more sensible as I've got older, though. Not going to be throwing myself out of planes like I have done in the past. I'm a little bit more oh no, I might get hurt if I did that.
My teen is 15, so it was my birthday last week, and he was going, oh Mum, I can't buy you a card. I said, well, you can make me a lovely one. You always did when you were little. Just make me a lovely one. Anyway, so he threw me off my computer because he wanted to print some things off. Anyway, so I remember this lovely card all decorated on the front. And then inside he's found all these birthday memes. And one of them, it's a picture of, I think it's a guy actually, but anyway, it's this person. And then it says, happy birthday. Then it says, you'll still be doing the same stupid things, but slower. And I thought, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Brilliant.
So I said, oh, that's lovely. I said, it's a far nicer card because you've made it and thought about it than just trundling off to, Tesco to get something.
Yeah.
That's where you could go anyway. So, right. Well, that's all absolutely fascinating. So I'm really, really pleased about the way in which you've moved into your creativity. So we've touched a bit there about the inspirations. So your inspiration behind your work is very much aligned with, as you say, kind of environmental concerns. Yeah. Is that something that you are now, do you feel like you've developed more of? You're coming out more strongly? Is it a more strongly viewed theme in your work, would you say?
I think so. I think I'm just about finding my way really now. And it's taken, I suppose, with not having of going into the embroidery the way I did, I didn't really have the chance to develop my ideas and so forth, which is why I was really strong about this. I want to carry on with my education and see where I could push that. So I think my ideas have certainly developed over the time.
Yeah.
And also I think about 18 months ago, I went away on holiday and I learned to scuba dive.
Oh, yeah.
So that as well has given me a real insight. One of the things that when I went diving was, I want to see some really beautiful, brightly coloured corals in the Caribbean. And I
no
didn't.
chance.
No, it was all dead. I mean, there was, don't get me wrong, there was beautiful coloured fish and, lots of different things to see, but the coral reefs just weren't there. The damage had already been done, and I was, I was quite devastated by that.
Yeah.
And I feel a real infinity with the sea. That's the place where I relax the most, and I just have a real calming effect when I'm by the ocean. And I really felt I needed to do something, even if it was just being very subtle. And the fact that I'm starting to use recycled plastics within my work as well. So I raise the recycling bin quite often along the street. So it is developing quite strongly now, I think.
Yeah. And it's a long time now since I've been anywhere tropical, snorkeling, etc. But I think the first time I was lucky, I went to around one of the islands in the Seychelles and to a protected area, and it was every bit as fabulous as I imagined it to be. And even just where the hotel was, you just kind of swam off the beach and it was just fabulous. But then since then, I've been to other places where the reef hasn't been protected. They've been dynamiting. I don't know if they still do that, but certainly in them, it was just like, wow, bleached. Just, crikey, there's nothing here for any little fishes to live in and hide in. So that's why there's no fishes either. And I think it takes that experience to look at it from both. You've seen both the fabulous places and the places that have been trashed. And you just think, wow, this is just so sad. So it's really nice to see that those issues are brought alive in a different way so that people who maybe haven't seen this or aren't aware can learn the story by looking at some pretty textiles. Whereas sometimes it's like, everyone's going on about plastic or they're going on about this and the other because they haven't necessarily had that visual impact themselves. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Now, the other thing that I'm fascinated about is, now you said you went through a period of research and a lot of experimentation. So your techniques then buried in all of this resin, how have you developed those? Because obviously beads are a big thing, aren't they?
They are, yes. Yeah, I love my collection of beads.
It must be quite an extensive one, is it?
It is, yeah. And as quick as I use them, I buy some more. I can't help myself.
Because they're also shiny and pretty as well.
I am. I'm like a little magpie. I go, ooh, it shines. It glows. And I just have to have them. Beading and sequins does play a big part. It's more about the materials rather than the techniques, to be fair. Because I do use a lot of gold work materials as well. I learnt how to tam the bead a couple of years ago, and I just love the technique of applying the beads. You know, for me, it's just that it's very relaxing. It's very precise, very intricate. You know, that's I suppose that's what my embroidery is all about, really, of packing so much detail into a very small area that you just have to keep looking because you'll keep seeing something new.
Yeah. And so was it looking at the beads thinking, oh, if I pile all these up together in crusty kind of layers, it looks like a coral reef? Or was it, I fancy doing something about coral reefs. How can I recreate that? Oh, piling up beads would do that. It's a bit like a chicken and egg situation.
It is. It's a bit of both, really. Yeah. I have pictures of the coral reefs in my sketchbook, and I look at form. I've made little maquettes. So I've started off with clay and feathers and started to make little models of these corals and just the forms, really, and the shapes, and to see, okay, if I translate that now into embroidery, how can I make those same shapes? And what materials then can I use to give the depth and the height? And it's not, an exact replication of a coral reef. It gives a nod to the coral reef, of bright colours, and it's like a jewel in the ocean. I like to call it, really.
Lovely.
And of how I can give a nod to the coral reef through my embroidery. I think that's, I would explain it more than anything, to be fair. So I'll use whatever means I can use to make those shapes and to get those stacked, whether it's stacked sequins or beads or stitching in a different way. I'll try anything, really.
Brilliant. To give that effect, the impression of what it is that you're creating and inspired by. Now, I always feel like about asking this question when somebody like yourselves kind of been doing it for a couple of years, although, well, a number of years now. So what would you say then, Claire? I'm sure you've got things to share with us of what has been the high point of your textile art journey so far.
Probably winning a second prize in the hand and lock. That was a real turning point for me, I think, and a time when I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd done one stitch project in my second year of uni, and then I went into the third year going, well, I'm not really a surface pattern designer. I don't really like drawing, and I certainly don't like making cards or gift wrap and that sort of stuff. It's really not me. And so when the rest of the year had a life brief with Hallmark, I chose to do my life brief as hand and lock. And so it developed from there, really. I started to research or stitch and different stitch techniques. At this point, I knew very little. So it was just doing lots and lots and lots of sampling and seeing what I could come up with. And I came up with a phoenix, which, that was a real achievement. But on top of that was I'd never made a dress before in my life. I'd never even put a zip into a dress before. So that was a bit of a learning curve as well. I'm not a fashion designer, so I drew a picture of a dress that I thought I'd like. And my tutor helped me to actually realise that vision because I didn't know how to start.
Oh, crikey. Oh, this is wonderful.
I did know how to design my own fabric, and I did know how to screen print. So I screen printed 8 meters of Devore fabric and with my design on it, and I learned how to do laser cutting. So all the laser cut, the leather on the front that holds the phoenix onto the dress is all laser cut from my drawings as well. So that piece wasn't just about the embroidery. It was about the whole thing, the whole dress design and all about the journey, really, because the phoenix for me, it's a very personal journey, to be honest.
Yes, sounds like it.
It's called Rising from the Ashes, and that's exactly how I felt, that I was rising from the ashes after getting my diagnosis, and having to give up, everything that I knew. This was me sort of like regenerating and coming back out the other side.
And being defiant.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was a whole lot more than just a piece of stitch for me.
Brilliant. And of course, I'm laughing and hooting away in the background because this story is getting more and more incredible as the words come out. And what a testament, though, to your artistic ability, your innate artistic ability and determination to create something, to have achieved so much, and to get that second prize with such a fabulous thing, when you've never made a dress before. You've never put a zip in. It's like, wow, it's just amazing. That is an amazing high point, really, on many, many levels. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, of course, we go from high points, don't we? Because to achieve every high point, there's usually been an absolute string of research, let's put it that way, to get to that point. So do you have anything, I'm sure there's probably something even funny as well lurking around in there. So have you got any stories, Claire, of when something didn't quite go as planned and was possibly a bit of a disaster? And as ever, what did you learn from that experience?
Yes,
she's laughing already.
I don't think many embroiderers will say that they've ended up in A&E
oh no,
through embroidery, but
because it's so dangerous.
It is. Because I decided to teach myself how to tamper bead one day, and it didn't quite go as I expected. For some reason, I'm a really patient person most of the time, and I lost my rag a little bit with the tamper hook, and I got my hand underneath and the tamper hook on the top, and I was trying to do this and lost my rag and pulled the hook out, and unfortunately the needle shot like a catapult into my finger, still attached to the hooks on there, trying to with my other hand trying to detach myself from the embroidery frame, and ended up going to have it removed by a lovely man in A&E.
Oh, right. So I'm one of these people, like, I'm having to put me gums over my teeth. Do you know what I mean? It's like, It's like scissors. The thought of scissors is the same thing. I always envision putting my, so I'm gagging now, trying not to imagine this hideous needle, stuck in your hand.
So I did learn that, if it's things like that, I really need to go and have some expert tuition. So I went to Hand and Lock and learnt properly there.
Yeah, how not to maim yourself. And then, no, I can't even think of that. Oh, God, yeah. Ninja embroidery, yeah. How to stab yourself with a needle. Oh, God. Everyone was thinking, you're 6, losing you. I was thinking.
I certainly won't be doing that again in the hurry,
exactly,
sure.
exactly. That's it. Life's lesson: don't stab too hard with your tamper needle,
or don't lose my temper with it.
We need dangerous insurance, don't we? Really, for this, like winter sports insurance.
I think we do, yeah.
Oh, dear me. So, obviously, at the moment, a lot of people have got their plans thrown into turmoil because, well, we can't really plan much at the moment. So as we kind of move towards the end of our chat, and as ever, I'd just love to carry on, what sort of future plans? I know you were saying about your final piece for your masters. You've got that on the go. Kind of other than that, not to diminish it, are you in a situation where you've been able to have you got some longer term plans and projects on the go, or where are you at with your planning and your projects? And I'll stop waffling.
At the moment, I'm just really focused on just getting all of this work done really.
Right,
I always leave my written pieces right until the last minute because I can't stand doing it. I'd much rather be sat there sewing. It's really dull. Although, you know, it really does back up everything that I've been doing really.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, the degree show at the moment is cancelled, so hopefully there will be an exhibition, so like September, October time at Spode, which I hope to be involved in.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, it may be just looking to do some exhibitions really, and to show my work and to continue to go and talk at the Embroiderers Guild and various places. But other than that, I've got no plans at all really.
Right, yeah.
I think I'll be it's really about developing more about wearable pieces that incorporate the recycling of the plastics and with the stitch really. I think I've certainly stumbled on something that, you know, I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And I love making. So I think I'll be developing that a lot further, and maybe start to sell some pieces as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's part of the thing. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, then why the hell should anybody else be passionate enough to actually part with some money for it as well? So, you know, I think you've hit on a very important point there. It's essential to be passionate about what we're doing, and it doesn't matter what it is. It has to be there. So that's interesting that you're still looking at the wearable aspects. So presumably you've obviously been developing ideas out of that from doing your masters as well. So everything's all there for a reason, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I certainly wanted the masters not just to further, you know, my academic side, but to develop things that I could take with me to the future, and what ranges I could develop. So yeah, I think I'm achieving that now, and I'm coming into the last few months of it now, and I'm really seeing light at the end of the tunnel.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's all really positive.
Fabulous. And so in terms of doing talks for embroidery skills, etc., is that something people can book through your website? What's the best way for people to be in touch with you and follow you, Claire?
Just drop me an email really.
Yeah.
Or drop me a line through my website. That's probably the easiest way.
Yeah. Then everything's all in one place, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I don't get lost with lots of bits of paper everywhere.
Well, it's bits of paper, and then it's the virtual bits of paper, like a message in Instagram, a message in Facebook, an email. It's like, I mean, I've got loads of email addresses as well. And sometimes I do genuinely say to people, I'm really sorry, I just totally missed that thing in Instagram or whatever, because I don't do a lot of it, but I will often follow up with people and say, hey, I have sent you an email, but I'm just letting you know I've sent you an email, and I'll do it through, you know, Instagram or Facebook, depending on where I'm kind of chatting with that person, just because otherwise things get missed everywhere, don't they, these days? So it's
you do totally
to be aware of. So yeah, so I'm one of those ultra planning people who like send you loads of messages. You know, you just get one, you get loads. Right, Claire, that has been absolutely fantastic. I am so pleased to have been able to chat with you about your beautiful, interesting and very inspiring work, and I'm sure everybody's equally as enthralled. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word. Anyway, thrilled to listen and to share your journey with you. It's just been absolutely fantastic. So there we are. That's been wonderful speaking to you, Claire. Thank you so much for joining us on Stitchery Stories today.
Lovely, thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and information around this podcast. Please visit stitcherystories.com. Of course, you can listen to Stitchery Stories on plenty of podcast apps at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and plenty more besides. You can also ask your smart speaker to play Stitchery Stories podcast too. But wherever you listen, why not leave us a rating and a review to encourage other people to listen too? I very much appreciate you taking the time to do that for me. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. Keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.